Good evening, everybody. Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Our speaker today is Kamal Aderigbigbe. He works at BNP Paribas as Vice President, Human Resources. In his role, he leads the team in the provision of strategic HR business partnering to all divisions within the bank. Prior to BNPP, Kamal gained extensive experience and expertise in leadership development, succession planning, employee engagement, organizational effectiveness, and mentoring with British American Tobacco. At BAT, he worked across 3 locations, starting in Lagos, Nigeria, before moving to London, England, and finally Montreal, Canada. Prior to joining BAT, Kamal began his career working in a consulting firm of KPMG Professional Services before later moving on to Accenture. Kamal is passionate about driving business sustainability through talent management. He has participated in several discussion panels on topics related to this sub-area of human resources. Kamal holds a bachelor's degree in textile science and technology from the Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, and a master's in organizational development and leadership from Fielding Graduate University, Santa Barbara, California. He's a member of the International Coach Federation, ICF, and a certified change manager with Proxy. He lives in Montreal with his wife and 2 kids. You can find him on LinkedIn. Just search for Kamal Aderigbigbe. That's Kamal and Aderigbigbe. So thank you so much for joining us, Kamal. We are honored to have you here today, and we are all looking forward to your presentation. I'll hand over to you here.
Yeah, thank you, Radi. Thank you for the invite. I think first of all, thank you to Tayo Julius, because when he reached out to me and said, could I do this? I was like, oh yeah, sure. Happy to come and share a little bit of my experience with professionals like yourself. And you know what I like is I have some slides, we can talk through them and all. But if you do have a question, you could just post it in the chat rather than just say, you know, and then of course I'll leave some time at the very end again for questions. Already, how much time totally do we have? 60 minutes, 75 minutes? What's the sort of total space that we have for this meeting?
Totally, we are looking to round up by 9.
Okay.
So
I'll work with that in mind. Okay. Perfect. I shall be mindful of that. Okay, just stop me from sharing screen. Right. Sophie, can you check? It just prevented me from sharing the screen. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just switch again.
Okay, good. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
So yeah, a little bit about myself. Thank you again. I like to share this piece just to give a bit more context to some of the things that I do on the personal front. I love, even if I'm not eating the food, I just like to find out about the food. I just finished reading this book and it was amazing. A book about a lady, a Ghanaian writer. She's an amazing book. Yeah, actually, I still have it on my desk. It's called His Only Wife. It's a really great book. But what was interesting for me was every time I read something about a meal that they made in Accra, I would just go to YouTube and check it out first. That's the kind of person I am with food. I think for me, my background really started out just, you know, seeking consulting, because when people hear that I started with textile science and technology, they go, how did you switch in? It was more, you know, that mindset of let's get into consulting, not planned, but because consulting selected me and said, hey, you were, you know, 121 and first class people or whatnot. And then I did the test, passed and joined. And I just started this journey that I've been on, which has just been amazing. Now, currently with the banking sector, and still working in people management, working in HR business partnering, and leading a team of my colleagues to deliver on what we do there. This makes who I am, and that's why it was so easy for me to say yes, because this thing, if I wasn't doing what I was doing, I'd probably be in academia somehow and, spending my time in academia. Let's see, I'm going to move this on this side. Okay, so I can see the questions just to come. Yeah, perfect. So when I talk about the topic, the assignment that the hosts gave me, the organizers, they told me they wanted to talk about how do you move into managerial and leadership roles? What do you do to get promoted? And I know there'll be specific questions pertaining to each person's context. We can take that. Please post them in the chat room as you join. And I can talk about some of the things that may seem generic, but they're actually specific to the process of preparing yourself to be even in consideration for promotion. Because that's ultimately what we want when we get into an organization. We want progress, we want growth. The 3 reasons you can join a company: one is, for the money. The second one is for the culture. What kind of workplace that you're going to get? What environment is the organization in? And the third one is career growth. How are you growing? How are you developing yourself? And once you join the company, and that was one of your ambitions in joining the company, because you can join the company without any expectations of career growth. That's also possible. But if that's an expectation you have, and you don't get it, frustration comes in very, very quickly. So what do we do to even get ourselves ready? I start with the phrase personal brand. It's the who you are. It's the, your superpower. And why should we even be using this? If you think about who you are as an individual in a workplace, your branding helps to identify you as for who you are. It grows your network for you. It helps create people who speak on your behalf. Because if they talk about that thing, they remember about you. And you're renowned for everything. Of course, your next job, your promotion, your salary, that's how it goes. It goes on from there. I often tell people that, and this is true, by the way, the only job I actively pursued was the very first job I got more than almost 20 years ago. That was the only job I literally chased, because I didn't know anybody. But every other role, every other opportunity I've had, even when I applied for the jobs, because I did do my part, someone spoke on my behalf and said, you want to get this guy, he's the one that's going to do what you need to be done. Someone always spoke about it for me. The same every move, from KPMG to Accenture, exactly. Accenture, moving into BAT, every time I changed jobs in BAT, the reason I got a job in England was because somebody in England just said, I won't come out. And it was from the time I was based in Lagos. So since even when I switched here, so it's always consistent with me that the thing that sets me apart is what makes people remember me. And that's where they want me on their team. So you should build that your personal brand to identify yourself in that light, to be somebody that is renowned. Okay. And so when you start from there, the premise of personal branding, think about the kinds of words that have been used to describe you. This is a few words that you can think of. So some of them may be you, some may not. But there's one that I've put there that just says timid. One could be you, could not be you, but just think about the words that have been used to describe you. And, have you ever built consciously to get to this point? When you get the feedback, how do you even know how they describe you? How do you even know when they're describing you like this? When they talked about you with these words, were they correct? Okay. Have you done actions? Have you taken specific actions to be considered in any of these ones, right? And the ones that you don't want to perpetuate, how have you changed that opinion? Because people talk about perception is everything. Yes, it is, but you can't influence and change perception. It feels like, in my case, it will never happen. Just give yourself the benefit of doubt that, and if the environment that you're in, remember I said 3 things at the beginning: the culture. The culture of the workplace you're in is not the type that's open to change or accepting a different version of you, even when one initial perception had been formed, then there's some questions you ask about how long you need to stay within that workplace. Okay. So in building your brand or identifying how you show up to people, a few things form the basis of that. I'll talk about that and then really speak to how that links to promotion. Character is who you are when you're not even working, when you don't know you for the job that you do. And so are you famous or infamous? And infamy, by all definitions, is the worst form of publicity that you can have in a workplace. It is definitely the wrong kind of one that you want to have. Certain words describe you, you could be known for any of these character traits. And this is why we will look for you. It doesn't even speak to any competence that you bring. And we'll talk about competence in the next slide. All of this, they show up independent of who gets in contact with you. The first person that you meet, the one you talk to, the ones that suddenly just, randomly just pass by you, either they exchange some Skype chats with you or whatever in virtual settings, how do they experience you? And what are you consistently remembered for? And this is your character. So how do you build that? Just first start with what you know about the company's values. Because a lot of us just go to the organization and we tend to think of, oh yeah, in this company, there's some things that are unfair and I'm going to show them back or this. Yeah, but learn about the company's values. And if you can find ways to demonstrate it, always choose your moments. Always choose your moments. And yeah, the best way to know if you're demonstrating it is to ask for feedback. And important to be consistent. Remember, you're building your brand that speaks for you, that gets you promoted. So one fundamental core that you should have, because even if you're an entrepreneur, you're working for yourself as CEO of your own company, this traits is what's going to grow your business. Think about the last time you called out a defense service provider or the one you always want to go back to. Certain things make them stand out. And those traits that make them stand out include these ones that you have here. And it's always the intentions that drive your actions. That's where this comes from. And to where are all these types of things tested? How do you behave in a moment of crisis? How easily are you compromised when certain things are offered to you or when certain questions are asked of you? How easily do you just, okay, yeah, sure, we'll play ball? And I think this is very, very important for all of us as professionals to think about and recognize the moments of consistency or not that we demonstrate. Yeah, then let's talk about competence. So we talked about character. Competence, how do you stand out? What do you do? When I talk about your superpower, I know that, you're already demonstrating the character that I want in the organization, the character that I consider to be exemplary, things that I can, when I move you to the next level up, when you're promoted to somebody up, you become someone more visible. So the organization, hi Johnny, can you put yourself on mute? Oh, let me try. I think I can mute you. Yeah, okay, done. Yeah, Sophie, I think it was helpful making me the host. So how do you stand out, right? What do you do to be that person, okay? And so moments you have to demonstrate your competence. Team meetings, what you say, the kinds of questions you ask, when projects are assigned, your role on that project. And when you write emails, we're so used to virtual communications these days. One superpower that you have should be to write what I call calming emails. What do I mean by that? An email, remember the email speaks for you when you're not there. And this person reading the email, you don't know what state of mind that they're in. And are you answering questions in the email or raising more flags? And or raising concerns and questions without offering solutions to them? When you've been asked a direct question, do you start or ramble on before you get to the outcome that is being expected of you? How do you demonstrate that you understand what is being asked for? So the power or the ability to write clear, concise emails, clearly answering that question sets you apart. The best thing we've been doing, or even maybe not an email, Slack responses. You could be the one on Slack that is giving the best responses, because always, each time you respond to a question, yours always comes back and gets either voted or liked a lot because it's very clear, consistently. Yeah. And in one-on-one communication, how do you talk on the phone? Let's see. I think someone else is on mute. Yeah, okay. All right, so that's good. I think we're muted now. So how do you communicate on the phone? What do you say? How do you say what you say when you start the conversation? And those are moments that you have to demonstrate your competence. Because what is competence? It is the knowledge that you have and the experience you gained. That is what demonstrates competence. So when I ask you a question of how do you do this? Or what have you done? When can I get X report? Why is this still a challenge? When is this project going to be completed? What solution are you recommending for us to move this action forward? The things you say or how you execute things, it's a combination of these two, what you know and what you've done. And sometimes you don't know enough or you've not done enough. And yeah, you may not be as competent as you think or as is expected in that stage. But given time and your choice to grow yourself, what you know and what you've done just makes you stand out. And that's how you demonstrate competence. That's what it means to be competent, okay? So what can you do to even build them? The first thing you do, obviously you leverage your social media platforms. Just choose your preferred format. Is it text, images, video, audio? Because there's no format of social media today that doesn't teach you something. There's certain people you can follow on Twitter that just drop gems all the time. There's certain TikTok platforms too. There's certain TikTok handles that all they just share with you is content for yourself. It just depends on what you're looking for. You can find it wherever. And I'll tell you an interesting story about the Clubhouse. There's someone who we met randomly on Clubhouse, and today she works at BAT. I have never met, we actually had to meet up in the summer because it was so strange how someone randomly just said, oh, I'm looking for somebody in Montreal. Oh yeah, I know a guy in Montreal. He's on the Clubhouse chat. And we just introduced each other and that was it. So leverage social media to build your knowledge. Leverage it. And then attend certain webinars. What I like is number 3, execute your own development plan, company paid or not. There's certain companies that offer you development plans. And sometimes we tend to shy away, and I'll say a bit about that one. We tend to shy away from taking on the company paid or sponsored certification or exams, or even a program or a master's program or an MBA, because there's it's a carrot, but then there's a stick attached where they offer you the development, but then request to detain you. I don't say retain because it's supposed to be a retention program, but it really feels like a detention program. Like say, stay with us for the next 2 years or else. And sometimes I've had to counsel someone recently who said to me, oh, Kamal, I've been offered this training program. What do you think I should do? Do you think I should take it or not? Actually, it's my mentee and we're having a regular mentoring meeting. It was asking me this thing. They were going to make him a Workday SME at this company, Workday subject matter expert. And I'm like, go for it. Straight away, do not even think about it. Take that development. It is yours. It stays with you. Company paid or not, if they pay for it and they make you stay for this amount of time, if you can't stay, stay. If you can't stay and a great opportunity comes up, guess what? It's just the price. Someone can pay for it. All you do when you're moving on, if you have to move on to a different organization, find the person who's going to pay for it and say, here's the deal I signed. It's a non-binding, I can't release myself from this contract because I have to leave. And remember that we talked about character just a few minutes ago. Doesn't mean you should leave as soon as you get this development. The reason you might be leaving might have very, very little to do with whether or not they trained you. But what I'm saying is don't let the fear of, oh, they paid for my training and therefore I'm beholden to them, allow you to remain in a toxic environment. Because you may finish that training and you might just get staffed on a project or move to a different team, and all what you had planned out with this manager that you were working with just goes out the window, and suddenly you're forced with no choice but to leave. And then one thing that you don't want to hold you back is the fear of, oh, if I take this training and if I want to leave, how will I leave? You can't leave, okay? That if you have such a challenge, let's talk offline. And yeah, I like the part where you volunteer for projects outside your primary assignment, because that's the other way you can know what else you're good at. If you join the company in one area and we're looking for somebody else who knows some other skills, Some people have become software developers just because they do software development on their time, but then they join the team, maybe in finance, and they needed somebody to write in the codes, and the person volunteered and say, hey, I can do that. And the next time they needed something else, the person volunteered again and suddenly became, oh yeah, there's a department we're starting. Do you want to join? Oh yeah, sure, totally. Because you've been volunteering for certain things outside of your primary assignment. And that leads to, increase responsibilities and promotion, right? It's important to know your business, okay? So how do you guys make money? You want to be a manager, you want to get into leadership roles. All of that takes you closer to the source of funds. And you will make decisions as a manager on business decisions, on finances. You're either the one making decisions on how we spend money or how we make money. So the earlier you start to demonstrate an interest in how we make money and lose money, the earlier you set yourself apart for what it means to, be a professional who's ready for promotion. What are some things that you can do? Because I've heard a lot about people who say, well, I'm in IT, okay, or, well, I'm in finance, because you'd be amazed that even finance people, some finance people focus just on what they do about finance, which is reporting or internal audits, or this little piece of financial management is all they do, but they stop and don't think about what does it mean to the big picture. What's affecting that? Because all I do is do my piece and I send it and I'm out. Yeah, well, if you want to be a manager, very, very likely you will be called into certain conversations that need proper and better understanding of how this organization makes money and spends money and how we lose money too. So for you, thinking about being a manager, understand what performance measures are critical to your company's success. And what are some measures that you want to know? What's the share of market? How successful are we in the space that we play? What are the primary things we do to generate revenue in this company? How do you really, really make money? Some of you have access to that information depending on the size of your company. If you're a small, medium company or large scale company, for most of the quoted organizations, that's the easiest. The information you need about your company, other people are reading about company to buy shares in your company. If your company is a quoted one, you may work for the company and you don't even know as much as people who buy shares in your company. Because think about all those that do day trading and stock trading. They actively read up about these things and they know about all these things. And they want to know where where your business is going to next. How come you, the employee, you just might be the only one who doesn't know, but you aspire to grow up into senior roles. When you do aspire to grow to senior roles, make this one of the things you actively pursue, the knowledge of this. Because you know what you have advantage of over the shareholder, how these things will change or what is happening to you or your role that is going to influence that. And that's why sometimes you may be called a protected employee or a covered employee where you can't trade in the company stock during a particular period. Okay. Can you hear me? Oh, okay. So how can I build that information? It's one question that comes to me. The first one says, understand how your job contributes to the bottom line. What are you doing to contribute to the bottom line? You say, I'm a Scrum Master. Oh, no. Okay, why are you just a Scrum Master? What does the role of the Scrum Master do? Or manager, what does the project manager do? Or yeah, I'm program analyst. What is the role of a program analyst do to contribute to the bottom line? How does what I do every day help achieve the reason why this company was set up? And if you can attend company briefings where your CEO is making presentations, please do take your notes, and that may form your conversation starters at the next questions, at the next opportunity you have to ask questions. Attend any product launches that you can attend. If you have visible points of trade, if you're in like consumer goods, when I was in consumer goods at BAT, one thing we did, every employee, as much as we could, we went on field trips. We had to go and understand how consumers are interacting with our products. Yeah, and I say pay attention to partial conversations. What do I mean by that? Sometimes you may be in a conversation about something completely different, and just because of what you're trying to deliver on or the project you're working on contributes to a bigger purpose or a bigger outcome, your line manager or your colleague may start a partial conversation in that direction, and then they catch themselves and stop. Not because they, maybe not because they don't want to share it with you, or maybe not because it's a secret, just because they realize that, oh, it's a deviation, and they go, okay, let me deviate for a bit. If we do this, when you pay attention to those partial conversations, you can ask questions to clarify understanding. Yeah, make friends with people outside of your team, not just because you want to network, but because you want to know what else is going on outside of your organization. Promotion to managerial roles requires you to be seen as more than just the manager of your local team. You're manager of the organization, making decisions, and at some point, if you're a manager or a leader of a team, you have signing responsibilities, account holding responsibilities. If you're going to be having that level of responsibility, how responsible are you to make that choice, to make the choice that they need on behalf of the company? Okay. Next. So I talked about network, and what we always hear about networking is, know people, make sure you meet people, get to know people. As equally important that I find we don't talk a lot about when we talk about networking, because it talks about who you seek for something. That's where we start from. But there's also the important part of who already knows you and who knows you within the organization. And remember, all these things we're talking about, building up to this point about growing your network, starts to give your visibility to someone that will know you. And because they can think of you first, and your name will be the one they recommend, and you're known to people who make decisions. And yeah, they can give you that next job, next salary, or next promotion. Because remember, if your character is consistent, the competence is exceptional, and your business knowledge and business awareness is something that is exemplary, that people remember that. People definitely remember that. So how can you grow a network? In some companies, you have employee resource groups. What's an employee resource group? It's purely an organization, small organizations within an organizations that are completely run by employees. If you have one in your company, find one, join. That way you meet people outside of your core. In the company that I work for today, we have several employee resource groups on diversity. There are affinity groups around, ethnic origins, like the Black heritage, Spanish, Chinese. Be a member of them, join them. Don't think of them as, oh, well, they want to label us. No. See it for what it is, your opportunity to know people outside of what you do, okay? And identify who is the mentor. Okay, slight difference. Your mentor can be someone within that, outside of your division, who you've taken a liking to. Some companies have formal mentoring programs, others don't. You can identify someone to be your mentor, and don't go seeking a mentor when you don't have all the pieces we set up before: competence, character, knowledge. Even in seeking the right mentor, it takes a certain amount of knowledge. You want to be discerning to choose the right mentor, okay? And how can you choose the right mentor? Either you choose somebody for where they are, if it's an aspirational area of work you want to work in, and your sponsors can then be somebody within your own team at a very senior level who is quite familiar with what you do and understands where your career direction needs to go. And you're asking that person to take on responsibility of, speaking in forums where you don't attend. Some formats are informal, some sponsors are informal, and some sponsors are formal. I talk about the professionals in your field outside of your company, because sometimes your next job or next salary growth or next managerial opportunity is not inside your company. It might just be with some professional that has come to know you outside of your primary company. And they know that this person, from character, competence, and knowledge, this person is spot on. We should be looking to hire this person. For those of you who've come here and started up in a university first or formal institution of learning, the alumni from your university is really very helpful. Join any alumni networks from your school, find people there, be active, participate in conversations, and offer to help people. The other way you can grow a network that I didn't put is you can be the help to a new joiner. Someone just joined your team, looking lost. You know how you felt when you joined the company several months ago, and now you're this super cool person because now you're familiar with so many things in the company. You can grow your network by being that person to somebody who just joined. Someone else has just, and then just by, because you never know, by building a relationship with the person, it may lead to something else. And, new joiners could be even your boss or senior colleagues who are new joiners to the company, and they may have the same early day blues that you had when you joined the company a few months ago. And that definitely is something you can do to grow a network. Okay. I just want to spend a few words on us immigrants. And I know this is a cross-section of people who are already here, some in the States and some in Canada, and some even yet to arrive. But ultimately, you do aspire to, if you're not here in North America and you're aspiring to come to North America, just a few notes on some things that I wanted to say about asking for promotion and just asking in general, asking for promotion and then getting promoted to senior leadership roles. I talk about this is paradoxical. How loud is your silence? Yeah, because your silence is loud when no one hears you, and you're visible by what you do, but nobody hears you by what you say. Okay, and some things that hold us back. Yeah, this the fear of intimidation. If I speak, I'm a new joiner, or my skin color, I feel awkward. Let me just be quiet, or the feeling of nobody wants to hear my voice. These are, self-inhibiting statements or things that hold. Some of them are real. They're actually real moments where certain colleagues tend to put you down or tend to shut you down because they say, "Oh no, you don't know what you're talking about, or you're new." Do not let that stop you. Find your moments to speak. I'll tell you, in meetings, ask, say something, and sometimes speak to repeat what was just said. But unless you ask in North America very clearly for what you want, chances are they don't give you what you believe you deserve. They'll give you what they think they want to give to you. What you know you deserve and what you know you can do, ask. Ask for it. Ask for that project. Ask for that salary increase. Ask for the promotion. Yes, ask for the title change and ask for more responsibility. Even ask for more information just as you understand the company. Let me give you a practical example in my case. I've been in this company I set some safe spaces, start amongst close friends, to start to test your voice of how you ask for things. And when you're new, when you ask for information, use the new joiner card. Please don't ask for a salary increase on the same day you joined or within a week you joined. And that's interesting because I actually have a story about somebody who did, and he lost his job within a week of asking for that salary increase because he felt he was disingenuous. He had not demonstrated any results whatsoever, and he was already asking for a salary increase because he felt he was undercut as soon as he came in. He immediately started saying, I want my salary to be increased. Interestingly, he also asked for a title change in his first week. And the following week, he was fired. Just like that, straight out fired. Here's a different example that works. I joined this company, the bank I work for. I've been there almost 2 years now. And consistently in the way I've been working, I've been asking the questions about certain aspects of talent management that was clearly obvious and absent. But in asking about it, how do we do this? How do we do that? They would say, historically, it's not been done. Then I started to build relationship with the US counterpart because we have a lot of work with the US team. And in doing that, I built some rapport with the lady who doing the same thing on the US side. And I started to, try to understand how they did it there and what we're not doing here. I even volunteered certain things. During the last summer, I volunteered to lead a session on personality assessment for my colleagues. It was oversubscribed. It was some sort of free session. People did all kinds of things. Someone taught people how to make cocktails. Someone taught people how to knit. I just said my strength is leadership development. I'm going to give you guys a simple, free gift on personality assessment. And I did it. The minute they posted it, 2 sessions. I was the only person that ran 2 sessions of about 20 people. And each time they had to beg that they couldn't put a third class because Kamal is not available. So what that did, by the time the fall came, I started to ask to be moved from the role I was doing. I told them I was better off being the head of talent management. And they were like, yeah, okay, we don't have the headcount. I repeated the conversation to my manager and they said, look, you guys are missing an opportunity. If you don't make me this role, I can do so much more and there's a gap. We need it. I think a couple of weeks ago, my manager called me out and said, actually, the US manager called me first and said, I was talking to your manager in Canada, and I've told her, this is what we need to do, and you're going to get that job. We need you to do that. You need you to do what you've been asking us to do. Is everybody's story going to be as smooth as mine, or as smooth as I described it? And was mine as smooth? Not necessarily. It's been several conversations of broken record repetition, just finding my moments to ask the same question and telling them. And you know what? I'm very, very reconciled that even if they don't follow through with what they've said they're going to do come the new year, I'm very, very comfortable to know that this is what I can do for somebody else. And now I have the skills based on my work experience with these guys. Just ask yourself, what have you got to lose if you ask the question on what you know you need? Another point for immigrants. I've also, sometimes I've been called out for my Nigerian accent. And they've told me that, oh, wow, you sound different. Okay, well, guess what? I also work with this. You all work with these people too. You all work with different nationalities, probably even more than this. They all don't speak English the same. Everybody speaks English differently. That's the thing. Everybody speaks English differently, and they all make an impact, even though their English is not, in some cases, as clear as yours. All of you on this call that you're listening to me, you all speak far better English than some of the people that have shown up here, some of these nationalities. Then you should remember the logic behind your communication will always supersede the quality of your accent. What are you trying to communicate? Remember, you don't only communicate by speaking if you feel uncomfortable that you might get labeled that. You write. So I said, your emails should be super clear, crystal. Is your writing very clear? How clear are you? How articulate are you in the quality of content that you share when you respond to mails or you ask a question? Okay. A few thoughts just to end. Just lead, first of all, demonstrate the right character set, demonstrate that knowledge and experience that you've got, know the organization you work for. Managers lead the business and people. You need to know the business. And yeah, for sure, grow your network. The best thing someone told me about networking, said, Kamal, by the time you need a network, it is too late to build a network. Thank you very much. I will take your questions.
Thank you so much, Kamal. That was a very insightful session. So while we give people a moment to compose their questions, anyone who has a question, please just you could type it in the chat, or you could ask Kamal directly. While we wait for that, I think I would lead with a question I have in my head that I've been waiting back. So, say for instance, we've taken the steps you recommended, built your character, you've improved your expertise, the skill, you've grown your network, and finally everyone on your team and the organization feels, okay, yes, we need to give you, that next level. But there's something you've observed within the organization, which is my own experience, which is in terms of salary range, right? Mm-hmm. You don't want to be that guy who, after giving the role, within a week, you're asking for a raise. So your best opportunity is at the point you are being made an offer. Yep. Now, what you've noticed that oftentimes the company has like salary ranges, minimum, mid, and maximum. Yeah. And most times they hover around the minimum. From
always, like, even below minimum. So some people,
yes. And so after all of this work you've done, the offer is coming, either internally or externally, that senior level, that next level you've been looking for. Mm-hmm. And that they will go by default to start from the minimum. How do you make a case to push for a higher salary range, right? Given that you've not yet stepped into that role yet, but you will be able to perform well when given a chance, but you don't want to turn them off and lose that job offer or that that promotion offer. How do you do that?
Yeah, okay, thanks already. That question is double-headed, and I'll tell you why. It's twofold, because it could work differently if you're applying externally, and it could work differently internally. For sure, there's more limitations. Everybody, FYI, I work in HR. And for those of you who work in HR, you also know this, right? There's no company, very, very few companies will give you as much an annual increase than you get. You get more increases by changing companies than staying with the same company annually. If you intend to grow your income annually, if that's your goal in North America, you want to grow your income annually, then don't plan to stay with the same company for more than 18 to 24 months. And if you're comfortable to explain your CV away, yes, that's your goal. Okay, just that's the first premise. Let's be clear. On the premise of how then do you then benchmark and know whether you're in the right spot? A few things. One, whatever prior experience you're bringing, because remember again, the immigrant dilemma, we come to North America and the discounting of our prior experience from Africa happens a lot. There's discounting. So you've had 15 years of experience, but then they start you in a role where you think about that job, you're like, I was doing that when I was, 7 years ago. So what needs to happen is, prove to them that you're better than what they gave you in demonstration of the work that I said. And so we say salaries are confidential. This is what we say in HR, but we all know it is not confidential. People share salaries. People talk about salaries. That's one way to find out about what the people at that level are earning, because it may not be formal. It's not going to be available to you. But also, what you can do is benchmark yourself externally. What did they pay those jobs in other companies? Because the argument you have for more has to be founded on something. Because especially when you're arguing internally for the promotion, you go and say, look, I've looked externally. Actually, if you pay for the LinkedIn Premium, I love one of the little articles that I was reading there recently on the salary conversation. When you see what they've described on how you can ask for more money, it's so beautifully laid out. Okay, I'll definitely recommend you to check it. So, but what you do is you base your request for more on some facts, and the facts will be what you've contributed, how you've done over and above. And even if you don't know what your peers or the next level guys are earning, you can also show that the work you're doing relative to relevance to the business and how much it's contributing to the business results deserves to be paid more. And then you have to come up with a number. Your number is either a range, 10, 15% more, or what you feel comfortable with. I think it's important that you recognize that once you set a number, and depending on the rapport relationship you have with the manager that you're working for, it's important then you then find out how I place the conversation. When do I place the conversation? Because most companies internally default. When they move you up, they move you to the minimum. Because what they say and why, there are people already at that job grade before you came that they don't want to screw or mess up, pardon my French. They don't want to mess up the language. They don't want to mess up their salary scales by putting you higher than them, because they argue that those guys were already performing or demonstrating work at that level for several years before you came. So chances are they want to put you, but you can push for closer to them if you know that the organization is that type. Most organizations tend to have fixed income ranges for moving people up in promotion levels. Others don't, and therefore you can negotiate. But certainly when you're going outside of your company, all bets are off. You can always negotiate. You can even negotiate after you receive the offer to say, I've had a look. Here's why I think my needs have changed or my competence has changed. So I'm doing this much. I've just been given this much, and I need you to consider an increase for me, right? Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. So I see a few questions in the chat room. Very quickly, because I know in case some people other people have questions. The new employee card, use the new employee card in the context of, I was talking about the new employee card when you have to, anything really, you can use the new employee card when you ask questions. Because remember I said, if you are trying to figure out the best ways or moments, to interact and be unobtrusive, sometimes when you ask a question that, because the natural instinct would be to be quiet. Remember, I was talking about the context of how loud is your silence. You can use the new journal card and use it. I only recommend using the journal card in your first 90 days, okay? So just say, hey, I'm new here. What makes you, why should we do that? Or how do you do that? So I'm new and I just heard that we should do this. What makes you say that's the action we should take? How How does this help us achieve the goal you set? So, I'm new, so I'm trying to understand, I'm new, I'm trying to understand how this place works. You've said the business goals for this week or this month will generate 10% profit. How does this proposal you've recommended or this action you've told me to take, how does it help contribute to that? And sometimes it's just where to find information. Hey, I'm new here. How can I find information of this? I mean, ask to put this report together. So that's what I mean by the new employee card. And that way you can build networks that way. Bluntly, I don't think it's too late to join your alumni. It's never too late. I'll give you an interesting example. So I'm interested in, spaces and places, and also still looking to, move on and still, because I still believe I have growth ahead of me. But I was looking into something, some companies, and I realized that someone in one of the companies I was aspiring to work for actually went to my university, the master's, university I did my master's in. I finished from that school. I finished in 2015, but he finished even like 2012. So like 9 years ago. But so like, this is like almost like, the thing about alumni, even if you don't join the group, when you search for jobs on LinkedIn and you're applying for jobs, when you've listed your university on your profile, LinkedIn tells you who used to work there. I would say, oh, this person that went to the same school with you actually works for that company. So I reached out to this guy. And one Friday afternoon, we spent 45 minutes to like 1 hour just chatting. And we found out we connected on so many levels. And what was the glue, the trigger? I just saw that he went to Fielding. Like, oh, wow, I'm not Fielding alumni. I'm going to send a message to this guy, say, how do you find Fielding? And we both agreed on some things. We're like, oh, you too? Oh, man. And that was it. So I don't think it's too late. I do not think 10 years after graduation is late at all. So it's just what you want to achieve with it. What do you want to do with that alumni relationship? Do you want information about the company? Do you want knowledge? And that's what drives the kind of connection you reach out to for the alumni.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. If anyone else has a question, you could.
I have another question.
Oh,
I have a question. Yeah, what are the best ways to elicit feedback within your organization? So aside like one-on-one conversations with, line managers.
That's the gold star question, Sophie. Because feedback can be one of the most difficult things to give, all around. Because especially when the feedback sometimes can be unfair. And I'll talk about feedback from those two perspectives, right? You believe it's unfair to you, but then you also do need feedback. So to just your first part, how do you even ordinarily go about asking for feedback? It could be at the end of the week, and you mark your milestones, right? Mark your milestones, the first 90 days in the company. You want to test the waters and see. When you hired me, when I joined your team, you said you had these 2-3 things you wanted to do. When I interviewed with you, you asked if I could do this and this and this. And I said, yes, yes, and yes. I've done 90 days in the company. How is it going so far? And sometimes it's just booking a meeting. That may be formal or informal. They may request of it. Some companies actually fix the 90-day rule in the calendar for some organizations. Some don't. And you just get a letter of confirmation anyway, and some never give you one until after 6 months. But I recommend you sort of consciously diarize that time, that date, and send a note to your manager and say, hey, how did I do so far? Did I meet the expectations? And what I would say you should do also in seeking feedback is at the expectation point. When you join the company, hold what you call a post-interview with your manager. Because now you're an employee of the company, right? So you're trying to build your relationship. So ask them a few questions around a few more details on what they expect from you or how they want you to work. Because now you've cleared the hurdle of joining them. So that sets the tone for the kind of feedback you ask after 90 days. And sometimes you meet somebody, you work on a project briefly with someone, an email is fine. How did I do versus give me feedback gets you easier responses than, oh, I'd like some feedback. Get the person on the edge. When you say those words, oh, can I get some feedback? Just go straight out and say, how did I do? How have I been doing? What's worked for you? There's some things that has not worked. Don't focus only on don't start with the premise that you've not been doing well. So you go with, what am I not doing well? No. What has worked? What's working for you? What have you enjoyed working with me? What are the things that, you really like about the way we've been working? And in that same space, offer to share feedback. Don't stop at asking for what worked, then just start with it. Then go to what's not working And if you have the rapport with the person, you say, is it okay if I share some thoughts about how we're working together with you? I enjoy this working with you. I enjoy this working with you. I just find that some meetings I find out after the fact, and I'd really like to be involved at the beginning so that I can do my work better next time. Something like that as a suggestion. Now, when the feedback is unfair, I promise to talk about that. And you want to air a grievance, like, I'm so pissed, this is not who I am, this is unfair, this is not the real me. You have to find your moments again. And what I mean by that, first, find out what the company culture, rule, policy around performance management is. People don't ask, people don't know, they just join and start working. They don't ask if they should have put in objectives in the system by a particular date. They don't complete their own personal assessment when they ask them to do so. They just keep on working. Do not do that. And when they work, they forget to describe their achievements completely. They just write a few bullet points and send it off. No. Be consistent, detail your work, because that's the basis of assessment and the basis of recognition that we've been talking about. So if you feel the feedback is unfair, you can, push back in a constructive way. If you do have, opportunity to do so, offer a different point and say, respectfully accept, here's some context that you may or may not be aware of. And it may be that you're seeing it not to change the outcome, but to register that should that repeat itself in the future, you've expressed your concern and you can address it, that this is what happened, this was the context. And sometimes if the feedback that the unfairness is so strong, so strong, then you should actually ask about, a grievance procedure, because some managers just deliberately become mean. And at that point, involve the HR partner and ask about the grievance procedure in the organization, that you want to express your grievance, that you've been unfairly treated. And you might even have to request an investigation and say, because in Canada and in Quebec in particular, they have some extremely strong anti-discrimination and harassment rules. Learn about those things and use them to your advantage. Don't feel like you'll be targeted if you use such things, or you need them to clarify a situation that you feel uncomfortable about. Because if you do feel that you've been, targeted for whatever reason, make sure you raise that. Okay.
We have another question in the chat.
Oh, best way to make lateral move different from the development objective of coach. Yeah, I know this is one of those awkward ones where the manager likes, you've worked with this manager or coach a lot, and they've supported your growth and development, and you need to move away from them to grow. I think some of the things we said, right? If you start offering yourself up for some project opportunities or pilot programs in some company that some companies have. We ran a pilot program recently as part of our internal mobility actions, where we said, if you want to work in certain divisions, raise up your hand, and you spend a day with that team, where we offered to give them a day with teams that are not in their natural area. Some people wanted to work in project management. They've always wanted to do so. They got to spend a day, virtually at least, with the project management team and took tasks and things like that from them. One thing you should not do, even though the person is reluctant to let you go, is not be transparent. The earlier you manage the conversation, the easier the departure will be, because nobody, not even you, likes surprises. You don't like to be surprised with a sack letter. You don't want to surprise your manager with, I'm leaving for this team next week. It is one of the things you should like. It's a very big no. So first things first, if they can listen to you, that you intend to find opportunities internally within that area you're interested in, let them know that you continue to find, and just agree what that timeline looks like. Agree what that time is. It next year? Is it next month? And your commitment to help train, find, and develop a successor always makes managers feel comfortable. When they know that you're committed to helping them build up whoever will replace you, makes them feel comfortable. And some managers that grew to that point, they know that in order for you to get to where you need to be, you also need to grow, just like they did. So I remember we're talking about getting to managerial roles and leadership roles. It's inevitable that should you want to get to that point where even though it's outside of your core area, if you want to move there, expect to move across laterally, like you said. But once you demonstrate the right performance levels they need, then you can start to aspire to grow higher. Any And yeah, by the way, I'm on LinkedIn. I think I already said at the beginning, for those of you who join later, just search me out, Kamal Aderigbigbe. If you still have further questions, I'm always happy to take questions.
I'd just like to add to testify to the benefits of one of the tips you gave, which is about joining employee resource group as a way to build your network internally. I did that and it's really paid me. So I joined the Black Employee Network group in my organization. And yeah, while working there, I got to be close to the person I was reporting to on that committee. And we got to talk about our career aspirations. We found out we're both Nigerians. And when I told her I'm looking for other opportunities outside the bank, she actually recommended me. I didn't know she had friends. Like, she actually recommended to the other two other banks. She had friends there. One of them was an HR person that helps recruit Black people. That one directed my CV up for pushing my CV forward. The other one, they were actually looking for a role on their team that I was qualified for, but they've been trying to fill that role. They've sent out, vacancy, but they've not gotten the right person. And in chatting with her, she was like, I think you're a great fit for this role. I think you're a great fit. I'm so excited. My boss will be excited. And now we're talking, we're in the final stages of the recruitment process. And it all came from, joining the employee resource group, building a relationship with this person who works in a totally different unit of the bank I otherwise wouldn't have crossed paths with. Yeah. So yeah, that was very beneficial. I'm just
excellent example already. Excellent example. I mean, I remember one video I remember of George Floyd. His daughter said, "Daddy changed the world." She was right. I mean, for all that guy's ills, whatever happened to him was terrible. But what happened afterwards in corporate America and corporate North America, not enough, I'd say, but changed things. Example is in my bank, the first time they had a Black employee resource group was after George Floyd, and I was one of the founding members. It was only because there was that groundswell. That's when we created our Black employee, we call it Black Heritage Network Group. We never would have created one if, and everybody suddenly wondered, why didn't this company have a Black employee resource group? But nobody could answer it. But yeah, so definitely agree with you already. Excellent example, and thank you for sharing that. Any other questions? We have several people. I don't know how much time we got. I'm asking for questions, but I don't know how much time we still got already.
Hi, good evening, Kamal.
Hi, Taiwo. Yeah, great to meet you.
Yeah, great to meet you. Great stuff. I joined in late, but yeah. I just wanted to find out. So I was speaking with somebody, and she had mentioned, like, connected with her on LinkedIn. I don't know her from Adam, but I realized she went to IFE as well, the same way you said. So I reached out to her on LinkedIn because I was interested in the role in the organization. And, at that time, and she had said, she then came back to me much later and said, look, that she's sorry, she was late and stuff. And then she said, look, to be honest, that most organizations recruit for senior roles internally. But they just have to advertise the role, but they recruit internally. I wanted to get your take on that.
Yeah, true. It is true. We have a metric that I measured by, not in my new company, my former role when I was Chief Talent Officer at BT. We had a metric that was critical to all our jobs. It was called the internal replacement ratio. It was a measure of how many times we replaced senior roles with internal people. When I joined, it was about 40-60, which meant that 6 times out of 10, we're going outside to get people in, and only 4 times out of 10. Before I left Lagos, it was 90-10. I'd moved that number from 40 to 90. It was 90% internal replacement ratio. And what that meant was we had a stronger internal bench. We're building people from within and moving them up into those roles. That's crucial because we needed to know moving people who were knowledgeable about the company. Now, how does that affect you as a candidate who's coming from outside? How do you make yourself relevant? How do you crack that measure? And if it's something that company is looking for? Well, fortunately for all of us, 2021 and 2020, post-2020 and 2021, it's a world where all standard rules got thrown out of the water. All the we can't do this, we can't do that, everything just got thrown out of the water. So we can't hire a senior exec became which senior exec is available right now versus, because suddenly everybody's making choices for their careers and their personal lives that is creating huge succession gaps in many organizations. And there's nobody ready because the people are leaving when they're not ready. So yeah, that person is right. We choose to promote from within first for obvious reasons. They know the culture, they can speak the language, they've been drinking the tea, they can, speak that same talk when they get up to those senior roles. But for some divisions that either were breaking new ground in tech, for example, when digital marketing blew up, most companies didn't know the left or right of what digital marketing was. They couldn't very well make the head of IT the chief digital marketing officer because that person didn't even know what they were doing. So they had to go outside to bring in people from the tech industry who understood a bit about that. So choose the sector. So how do you break in? One, choose that niche in an area where you have skill sets that you know the company may be looking for someone for. And the other thing that will definitely help you is, asking your people, quote unquote, your people internally to let you know, even just letting you know that, look, forget it, don't bother. We've had somebody who was just posting for the sake of, that you don't waste your energy on that one. You just move on to something else. So it's always important to try to find someone inside who gives you the story behind it. I've lost several opportunities myself because it later told me that, we hired somebody internally, and I know that's what happens in most companies, but it shouldn't stop you from trying. And today, there are more roles at senior levels than than ever before. So definitely, Taiwo, I mean, let's connect on LinkedIn. Who knows? Might be somebody in my network that could be of help to you.
Sure, thanks. I appreciate it. Although I'm not sure about the deployment stuff now because I have a startup on my own that I'm running here now. So
okay. Cool.
sort of moved on from that cast.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Thanks. But I'll connect with you on LinkedIn. Great.
Sure. Let's connect.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Kamal.
Hey, Thomas.
I was just fortunate to join this. And if it fell in line with a meeting I'm going to have with my VP and director tomorrow. So what happened is I'll be undergoing a master's in management of artificial intelligence from Queen's University Smith Business School, August next year. And part of the requirement was that I get a reference from my boss and my colleague. So we just 3 in the department, and my role covers across Canada, which is on the national scale. So when they both filled the reference, my VP reached out to me, and because I joined the company like maybe 1.2 years ago, that year and 2 months ago, I got an elevation from a different department. Then I joined business development. So my VP reached out to me and said they want to have a meeting with me, my path forward, my desire and aspiration. And the statement looks simple, but in my mind, I've
Deluded.
Right. So I, from your experience, you've dealt with multicultural people, and what would you? Maybe I should put the question in 2 ways. If you were to be in my shoes, what will you be discussing tomorrow? And if you were to be my VP, what would you like to hear that would look like I'm selling myself into a higher role, into a more senior leadership role within the organization?
Yeah, excellent perspectives to ask about the candidates and then the hiring manager. It's a great perspective to look. From your perspective, which is one-on-one right now, you are only selling one story. I'm committed to this organization, and here's how this Queen's Masters helps me get there to this commitment that I'm telling you. Okay, so you need to connect the journeys together. I'm pursuing external development because I see myself bringing those skills to bear in XYZ that I'm doing with you guys. And aspirationally, this is the role I see myself heading into 1, 2, 3, 4 years from now. Because the knowledge, remember what we said, competence is knowledge and skills or an experience you've got, right? So you want to demonstrate higher competence at senior leadership levels by gaining knowledge and building networks externally for sure, but also the experience you're building in the company is going to increase your level of competence to more senior leadership roles. And you're preparing yourself for that. That's what you're doing. And that's why you're taking this advantage of this opportunity to take on this education, to grow yourself. From your VP's perspective, what I'd like to know is, okay, so how long, what do I need to, so maybe one question, depending on who I am as your VP, I'd like to know from you, one question is, am I feeding your interest enough? Am I feeding your desire for exciting work, interesting work? Are you engaged enough in our journey with the kind of work I'm giving you, the support I'm giving you? Okay, do you find the work stimulating? And am I feeling that desire to grow? okay, what else can I do to make it better for you? Or what can I do to enable you in space? And if I'm not the also good one, I'm going to be going, so how long? How long is this going to last? You know, and how long do you, before you, run and jump ship? I may not ask it in that direct manner, but the nature of my questions will just lead you to understand that I'm really trying to probe your longevity with the firm and see how can I, eke out as much as I can from your skill set and your knowledge. So what I want to hear from you, unfortunately, at that point, when you understand the direction of the person, is also to demonstrate the same behavior back to reassure them, yeah, for sure. You're not going to share. I tell people, please do not share more than is required. Okay. Answer the questions directly and stop. It's always good to have complete sentences. Do not go into the and. Start and stop. Because the tendency to add more with those conjunctions tend to say things that you probably don't mean, and then they jump on that and then ask you further questions down the road. So clarity from you that your education and the experience you have with me is building towards your expectation for higher opportunities in this organization. That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to know. And that's what will make me feel most comfortable.
Thank you very much for the response. I think I have a clever time to put together. The meeting is actually tomorrow morning, so
all the best.
Yeah,
all the best.
Thank you very much.
Have we got any more questions?
Yeah, Sean, are you still on the...
Okay, you're going to ask Sean. Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
No, fine, you can ask one, sorry.
Okay, so my question has to do with the networking or joining your network in your company. So for us, when the Black Lives happened, they also opened something. I was on maternity leave, and when I came back, there was so much trouble. The convener or the leader then was sacked from the company. There was so much that went on, and everything went down. They're trying to bring it back to life now. And in my mind, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to join. But in my mind again, I'm thinking, should I be joining or just face my career? But with what you said today, what's the wisdom in navigating that kind of situation if you want to be a part of it?
And be the one that solves whatever problem they had before. Be part of the solution to build a conscious organization that demonstrates integrity and is, pride is actually Black excellence. When we set up our Black Heritage Network, our first meeting with the CEO, she said something. She said she wished all other, race affinity-based networking groups in the bank had the same model that we had, because we had a clear plan. We were structured in the plan. We had some guys who were very good in project management. They had built everything out month by month, showing even the vision. So she was pleased with that, because we still want more. And we've actually managed to change something in the organization that wasn't changed before. We did an annual diversity questionnaire that always asked for the indigenous groups. They would say, oh, are you indigenous? And of course, they would also ask about sexual preferences. But when it came to minorities, they would ask, oh, are you visible minorities, yes or no? And all you did was yes, and that was it. We couldn't understand. So they would always show a statistic that said 47% visible minorities. Yeah, but think about it. Visible minority is this Cheerio, I call it this Cheerio bowl. This colorful bowl of Cheerios. It's everybody in there. It's Asian, it's Mexican, Latino, Black. So you don't even know how much of which group. So we solved one problem, even for all minority groups, to say we want clarity on what is visible minority, what are the subdivisions in visible minority groups. And not only did they offer that, they've now offered it as an e-version. And so that's what we just completed last week. So when you join such a group, be part of problem solving. Join to solve problems, and what problems existed, try to understand it before you be a part of it, and understand how you can be part of solving, what made them disbanded before and how now, and then what sort of, how do we make it sustainable? What rules are we putting in place to make it sustainable so that it is independent of the leader, but it's really about the collective.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions for Kamal? I think you could ask even personal questions if you want. Okay, so Kamal, a question I have is, have you had to deal with disadvantages, or sorry, have you had to deal with racism at all in your experience working outside Nigeria in developed countries? And what are the kind of experiences you had, and how were you able to, scale those challenges?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. In England, interestingly, I did not directly deal with racism, but I dealt with imposter syndrome because I felt like an imposter. And it was strange because they trusted me and selected, I left Lagos with this mandate of, you're the one going, oh, don't go and mess it up. Oh, yeah, the hopes of Africa is relying on you. You're the one. So, and in taking all that unnecessary burden, I probably landed in the role and felt that, who am I to be in this role? And it just felt very inadequate for a few months. And I kept waiting to get caught out. I was waiting for somebody to catch me and say, yes, this guy, we knew you were fake. Definitely. Now let's sack you and send you back to Nigeria. And it's affected my own personal psyche for a while. But I grew out of it. How? With the examples of moments where I helped people. I think it really changed 9 months after I joined England, when I was interestingly promoted. I was the first Black African to hold that role when I was in the team in England. I became the vice president and head of talent management for Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Africa. I was leading a team of about 27 people, 9 different people in 9 different countries. When I got that role, all forms of feeling, insecure about, oh, am I the one to take on this job? It just changed overnight. Because what better validation of how good you are is it to get promoted in the midst of so many people? And the quality of work that I was offering and delivering suddenly just skyrocketed, because my value became how I helped other people become more successful. And I became known for that all my team members were very successful, my direct reports in all the different countries. I was always being there with them. I think I probably had some of my furthest trips. I went to Almaty, Kazakhstan, and Kiev, Ukraine twice. And each time they wanted me to come back because of the kind of quality I was giving to them. So it was less about how they saw me, but more how I saw myself. But when I arrived in Canada, it was completely different. Canada, as you all know, in North America, I was completely unprepared for. And Quebec, in particular, can be a very, very insular society. And I don't blame them, because everybody's grown up together. Think about all the guys you grew up with and all the friends you had. If you went to primary school, secondary school, university, and you all now live in the same network and society. And then these new people come in. How would you interact with them? Your guys that you've always known better, closer. So I struggled to break into those relationships. So the discrimination came when I don't like hockey. I don't know if you guys like hockey, good luck. I like basketball, I like football, I don't like soccer, I call it football. So I support a North London club. I'm not going to say which one before I start another problem here. But my point is, my pastimes were not the normal pastimes with my colleagues in the city here. And it was hard to break into it. In England, I would even go out every Friday evening to the pub, drinks. It was too cold to do that in the winter when I arrived. People didn't do that. They also went home early. So it was hard to break into the non-work life, if I put it that way. And that was quite devastating for me, because I struggled to break into certain networks. And for a very, very long time, it just became, and then they changed the leadership in my team. So that also made it worse, because there was a leader that I worked with very well. Then they changed that leadership team, and then the head of the team got changed. So that's when I felt the most negative consequence of not being a member of the society, a prior member of the society. I wouldn't call it racism, but it was definitely discrimination, because they could speak French. I didn't speak as much French. I had this manager that was my primary client who would go to my boss because they could speak French all the time and go and talk to her about things that he needed. And I'm like, okay, so one of them did it the other time, and then I called him out and said, dude, you need me to support you as a primary business partner, and you keep going to my manager to ask for help, she's always going to come to me to solve your problem. So why didn't you tell me first off? And then I can solve it for you. And he goes, oh, my bad, come on, I'm not going to do that again. And, till I left the company, that's what happened. The other exec, because he'd known this lady since forever, he always still, reached out to her as somebody. But, looking back, what I'll say, it just built me better for where I am right now, all of that. So, oh yeah, Eric Moore, I see you. Greatest I would say, I see you. So I just consciously found 1-2 people that I could connect with on certain things, and I, actually not forced, but I chose to get into the culture. I went to a few hockey games. I tried to understand the language of hockey, just the sports that they enjoy. And, by little, found common things that made it work for me. But it hasn't been easy, because I told you how big my team was in England. When I came to Canada, I was managing nobody, and the total population of workforce that I was supporting was about 400 people. When I was in England, I was supporting 13,000 people. It was like a shrunken role. Only now, so I think our journeys are different. Why we moved to North America, is rooted in the fact that there's dysfunction in our home country. But a lot of us, they're seeking certain things, and all our personal journeys are different. So focus on your personal journey while you're here, and that definitely makes it all the better when those challenges come at work. You go back and ask yourself, why did I even make this move? I didn't just make this move because I want to live in minus 30 degrees of winter in January, or because I'm so in love with snow. There's something else that I wanted, and the home front and your personal close relationships will always be your source. So I found, and some of the things that helped me get outside of that was actually finding people like you guys. The group Taiwo, Julius, and I belong to is a natural group that I discovered, and I was so happy to be a member of that group. And we've done great things together for ourselves. So those sort of networks help, reinforce my core and who I am, and just made it work for me overall. Bibi, you had your hand raised.
Hi, good evening. Hello?
Yes. Hi. Yeah, we can hear you, Bibi.
Okay. You were talking about imposter syndrome, Para.
Bibi, is this Bibi?
Bibi.
Okay, go on.
Okay, you were talking about the imposter syndrome, Para. And I heard what you said, how you got out of it. But are there other practical steps that one can put in place to actually get out of this imposter syndrome based on your experience so far?
Yeah, I think the first thing that is important to reduce, and I don't dare say eliminate it completely. The first thing to reduce it is reassess your knowledge, reassess what you know. Just reassess what you know, because the competence you demonstrate starts with what you know. Just reassess it. And if you don't know enough, reach into the network that gets you more. Get that person. Some people have paid mentors, and some people find coaches. Some people reach out to study groups that they join and become more knowledgeable, because they know they're going to show up tomorrow at the meeting saying something that they need to convince people about. And what I told you, you just remind yourself that in the worst scenario, in the worst case moments, you don't lose, you learn. Okay, you don't lose, you just learn. And one thing I learned from one writer that I read his book, I really tried to practice a lot, is how you think of each day as boxes. And yes, this box is closed, and today is the one you're going to open, and tomorrow is the box that you've not even opened at all, so you're not worried about that. The only box that is in front of you is today's box, and that's the box you have to focus on. So I try to just forget whatever happened to me yesterday that made me feel that way, and I just kind of put it in the box of yesterday and say, okay, fine, okay, what's today going to be like? Before I get overwhelmed by what tomorrow's box is going to bring, even though I'm planning for it, I focus on today's box. What is in the box for today? Okay, and there's always the moment where you always ask yourself, what's the most important thing for me to be doing right now? as you try that feeling of imposter, and yeah, the one thing, oh yeah, sorry, forgot that part. The best part is just connecting with the people who have always known you, the people who've known you professionally for the longest. Sometimes reconnecting with some of them just, reminds you of who you've always been. I'm holding this bottle of water. It doesn't change the fact that it's a bottle of water. I might choose to store, I don't know, coffee, tea, whatever inside. I'm the one misusing it. It's still going to be a bottle of water. Who you are will always be who you are. And sometimes the people who remind you best are the ones who've always known you all your life.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That seems kind of very practical. Thank you.
Yeah. And we shall connect, BB. By the way, sorry, everybody, I know BB super well. So I'm sure.
Sit right here.
Eric Moore. Yeah, I mean, breaking into non-work life, we find moments. Like I told you, you just learn to call it soccer. And remember, your work life is your work life. Try to join, talk to them in their language and introduce them to some of your language too. I know some people who talk about stuff that they enjoy. Some talk about food. I like to talk about food a lot, and find things that you end up being in common. Some people that I've found common conversations with, believe it or not, just happened because we're born in the same month. I was born in July, and I always sort of big up everybody born in July because we're summer babies, and summer babies are the best. Don't let anybody tell you anything else. We have the best parties. So that just became something to connect on. It's just because we found out that we're both born in July. Oh, July 3rd. Oh, I'm July 7th. Oh, wow. Okay. So it just became something we connected on. That's universal enough, right? Oh yeah, for sure. There's like tons of networking groups of project manager. Oh my goodness. That's like a dime and it does it. Okay. Connect to me on LinkedIn. Already, maybe time for one more question. I just see my kids come up to me. I think they should be bed by now. So maybe final question and then closing remarks from you guys.
Okay, I don't know if someone else has a question, so I'm just gonna take the free question slot. Okay, so we're in a digital age. Most people are working from home and all that. What are your tips on how to grow your network beyond just people you work with?
Yeah, excellent.
Because
that's true.
Yeah,
it's more intentional. It's so intentional. Have your networking goals, because why do you want to network? First of all, why do you want to? Just because you want to know people in the company? So one thing that you can do when you join a new company, right? When you join a new company, the first thing you want to do, obviously, try to set up your own meetings outside of the standard, whatever induction plan, onboarding plan that they give to you. Set up your own meeting. Identify who can be your buddy. If you're not assigned a buddy, find a buddy. Make yourself known to somebody, and then the idea of someone being your buddy, this person shows you around. But when you make that person your buddy, try to be more valuable than just what you get from them. Also be willing to share what you know. So virtually today, set up those meetings. Find the directory of the company. If you can find directory, set up meetings for the ones in your area. And then as you grow in the work you do, some people you have either project meetings with, immediately after the project meeting, reach out to the person. If you work in multi-locations, you might see some people in a different location that you then reach out to and say, hey, I just saw your name. I think we have the same skill set. Can we book a call? One practical thing that happened, I work with the New York office of the bank that I work for. We do a lot of, every day I have to talk to somebody in America. And I just noticed this guy in a meeting. He said something and I kind of tackled it because I've been frustrated about what he was presenting about on the Canadian side. And I said, but what about this action that you guys aren't taking or something like that? But that caught his attention. And immediately after the call, guess what he did? He set up a meeting with me. He's a black guy. He set up a meeting with me in America. He said, he just wants to meet me. Nothing doing. Great question, by the way, blah, blah, blah. We just connected and we laughed and just said, that was it. We became buddies all of a sudden. So it was intentional on his part to reach out to me, but I've also done the same thing because I've always known the value of, growing up global and building networks. During our diversity week, I saw some of our colleagues in Brazil. One lady did a video to the global team, Black lady. She talked about her experiences as being Black in Brazil. I sent her a message. I saw your video, great video. By the way, it's not our fault that we became Black. We're just born lucky. We're just the lucky ones. And she laughed. She was like, so true. I love that. Be connected, so be intentional about, the moments, you seek and find to connect and build networks. And yeah, so just take advantage of it. And if you have opportunities to go in, if they're offering work from office, I know some of us are doing 2 and 3 jobs. I know. The one that you've taken to be your primary job and you want to build networks there, if they offer work from office, go. You can put people's names to faces. I know. It's okay. There's a question here. Can you give me context? How do you manage to lay off emotion? I promise this is absolutely the last one. How do you manage to lay off emotions? Is it me or when I lay off people? Because I kind of do that quite a bit in my job. It's part of my task to lay off people. How do I lay off emotion? If I think about how do I let go of emotions? Or maybe you want to see me offline if that's better for us to have a chat, because I'm not sure the context. Being laid off. That. Okay, how do you manage the emotions of being laid off? Well, I did a program. I used to run it. I was the trainer of the program. It was called Preparing for Tomorrow. And we researched and conducted. One of the research that I used to share was that there are 4 things that, it's almost like it's irretrievable, but the one that gives people the greatest anxiety. So the one they talk about, the loss of loved ones, family member, parents, terrible separation through marriage, and it's like a complete breakup. You can't, recover it for whatever reason. But the job, loss of a job, ranked as one of the highest in terms of emotional stressors. But if you think about it, the loss of a loved one through death is the one you can't really do anything to recover that person. A relationship that's completely broken and dead, you can't bring that back. The one thing you have a choice is the job you have, right? You will get emotional. Don't deny it. I got emotional 13 years after leaving the company. I had to leave because the opportunity they offered me was in England, and I didn't want to move to England. I wanted to stay in Canada. And it was emotional on my last day after 13 years, so many opportunities. You will get emotional. Don't deny it. But beyond your emotion is, so what do you do next? Because remember, you've traveled like 1,000 million miles from your home country to come here. What do you do next? A couple of things to start before, once the letter has been presented to you, understand your notice period, understand how much you're being offered, ask for the outplacement support services. Ask for it. If it's not put in your contract, ask for it. Every company that does, layoffs and things, they always put in that clause, the outplacement support services. What do? They're the ones that help you find jobs for other companies. So a company called LHH, Lee H. Harrison, is famous with this. They help companies that organize big layoffs to help their employees find jobs with other companies. And you also become, marketable. You can stay in your space for a few days, months, weeks, depending on how you manage the change curve. But it's also important that you begin to take steps to recover who you are first, then start to remember what you do, and take those 2 together to seek for what you want. Okay? Who you are, what you do, what do you want? That sort of sequence can help you get out of the negative emotions of being laid off. And remember, is one thing you can do something about. There's bigger things that you can hardly do anything about, but being laid off is one thing you can do something about. And when you describe yourself at your next interview, find language that describes it and just be factual. Once you repeat it several times, your story is consistent and you just stick with it. Okay, already
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Anyone who has any more questions, please feel free to connect with Kamal on LinkedIn. He's a very approachable person, and as we've all noticed, is very open to answering questions. So thank you so much for joining us today. We hope everyone has a lovely evening. This recording will share the link on WhatsApp, so anyone who wants to rewatch, revisit, or share is invited to do so. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thank you, Kamal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Final words?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you all.
Thanks a lot, Kamal.
Thank you, Taiwo.
Yeah, I appreciate connected with you on LinkedIn already.
Cool.
I've connected as well.
Okay.
Thank
I'll
you.
accept that.
Thank you, Kamal. Thank you, everyone.
Bishop, you are here. It's good to see
I
you.
do.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thanks.